Welcome to the Mojo For Musicians podcast from Manny Cabo Media, where we dig deep into today's top strategies to help you take your music career to the next level with real, raw, and uplifting conversations with industry professionals that are making moves, making a difference, and making the best versions of themselves to inspire you to do the same. What's going on, everybody? I'm your host, Manny Cabo, and welcome to another episode of Mojo For Musicians. Hey everybody. Oh man, I'm beyond excited and so grateful to be sharing this that's right, the first official Mojo For Musicians podcast. And man, have I got a fun one for you today. But first, a little bit about who I am and why I even created this podcast. So for those of you who don't know me, I've been a singer-songwriter, producer, and professional editorial music photographer, I'd say close to 18 years now. As a vocalist, I've been pretty fortunate to open up for some amazing artists like Lifehouse, Street Doors Down, SR71, Godhead, just to name a few. And I've also had the pleasure of being on NBC's The Voice, Season 9, Team Adam, of course, and La Voz, which is NBC's Spanish version of the show. And so grateful to have been a part of those journeys because it allowed me to see, hear, and interact with so many incredibly talented artists from all genres and singing styles of music. Now, on the photography side, I've been photographing artists, models, landscapes, you name it, since I was 17 years old, thanks to my dad, who unfortunately I recently lost to COVID. So as you can already imagine, not only has it been a difficult year for me as an artist, but also as a son, husband, a dad, on top of everything else with this pandemic. So it's been a pretty difficult year full of hardships, but I'm not the only one. I'm not going to harp on that. Try to keep the mood happy and enlightening here. But thankfully, because of my career as a photographer, I've managed to work with some of the top modeling agencies in the world, like Ford, Click, Next, Wilhelmina. And I've also had the honor of being published in major magazines like Maxim, Modern Drummer, Men's Fitness, as well as working with major record labels like Sony, Atlantic, which has certainly allowed me the opportunity to bridge the gap, so to speak, between the needs of the industry and that of the music artists that I've worked with, of course. Which brings me to the focal point of this show and the reason why I created this podcast in the first place. You see, over the years, I've seen so many, a myriad, a plethora, whatever adjective you want to use, of incredibly talented artists just simply give up on their dreams, either because they lack the knowledge, the contacts, or the drive necessary to even be remotely successful in this industry. Now, I myself have endured those painstaking moments and processes of diligently looking for information or answers to specific questions relating to both of my careers as a musician and photographer, which in many cases led to dead ends or worse, false information. And that used to drive me bananas. People, please, if you're going to post something out there, don't waste our time. Post something that's factual. Now, I realize after so much trial and error, in my opinion, and I can confidently say that this is a blanket statement, only evidenced by my experiences in this industry, that success in any field or pursuit is defined by the amount of work, commitment, perseverance, knowledge, and above all, patience. Now, this last one has always been a rough one for me because I am not a patient person, especially when frustration set in. And I know damn well I'm not the only one. But for some reason, I always found a deep sense of gratification in helping others find those solutions and seeing that light bulb go off, especially when they understood exactly what I was talking about. Part of the impetus for me to seek those answers came from constantly being let down or relying on other people to follow through. And they never did. So I decided, you know what the hell with it? I'm going to do the research, learn the techniques, and apply them. And that's essentially been the secret to my success in everything that I've done and I'm still doing till this day. The only thing is now I share what I've learned with all of you that need that help, just like I did at one point, but failed to find it. And sure, man, it was frustrating. But even in the abyss of doubt and anger, I always managed to see the glass half full. And I always maintained that attitude of gratitude, even for the frustrations, because let's face it, it allowed me to be self-sufficient and showed me what not to do. And everything that I was forced to learn, I just apply it to every sector of my business, from marketing to graphic design to post-production, from both a video and photography perspective, and so on and so forth. And over the past 5 years, I've made a commitment to mastering both my crafts, musician and photographer, and share the techniques, the secrets, the skills needed to succeed as an independent artist in what I call, that's right, you guessed it, ta-da, Mojo for Musicians, because there is no better feeling than witnessing the success of another fellow musician and then knowing that you assisted in that growth process. That's just the icing on the cake. And I also promise to keep the episode short and sweet and to the point, as well as providing some great insightful tips, value, especially from industry professionals that I'll be interviewing from time to time. So that's a great segue. And without further ado, let's dive into this first episode and talk about the one universal formula that I have stuck with over the years, as I alluded to before. And believe me, I believe this is the most important topic of discussion, which incidentally is always brought up every time I'm asked to do an interview, speaking engagement, or even a one-to-one session. You know, people tell me, so how do you keep that motivation going? You know, it's a difficult career. Why this? And yada, yada, yada. So I basically answer the same way every time. I have this formula called the PCS formula. It's passion plus commitment equals success. So what does that mean? It's actually pretty simple. I've always endorsed the whole principle that you can teach knowledge. You can teach knowledge all day long, but you can't teach passion. And that's why this episode is so important and why I chose it to be the first official episode of Mojo for Musicians. And my next guest is a perfect example of having that go-getter mentality, not relying on anyone to make the next move. So stick around. I've got a fun one for you. Oh, and before I forget, I've created a free Mojo for Musicians manifestation meditation. Wow, there's a lot of M's in there, but, but yes, it is, and I dare say free for all of you. People always ask me, what's my routine when I meditate? Well, in this 13-minute meditation, you have a series of positive affirmations and breathing exercises that will help you reprogram your subconscious mind from any blockages, any limiting beliefs, either passed down to you or that you may have committed to memory unknowingly throughout your life. But I promise you guys, hear me out. If you consistently do this meditation on a daily basis and believe the affirmations as if they're already in existence, well, prepare for a great shift in your artistic career. I'm telling you, it's always worked for me. So go to the website, scroll down to the podcast section, and download your free Mojo meditation. And may it bring you all the abundance and success you desire.
You're listening to the Mojo for Musicians podcast. To learn more about becoming a guest on the show to share your mojo with us, visit mannycabo.com and send us an email in the contact section. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss any future episodes. And if you like what you hear, be sure to give us a positive review on your favorite listening platform. And now, back to the show.
All right, so I have to be fully transparent when I say I am beyond humbled, honored, and above all excited that my guest today was available to do this interview. And I can honestly say that this guy is just an incredible human being. He has been such an inspiration and a positive influence in my life. And true story, he was basically the reason why I took what was, I don't know, probably one of the biggest risks ever in my musical career, which was me, a rocker out of New Jersey, packing up whatever personals I had and moving to Nashville to essentially better my craft, you know, as a songwriter and basically build a robust network, you know, of some of the best musicians on the planet. And he is definitely in that top 1%. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome to the show speaker, drummer, actor, author, and the host of his own successful podcast, The Rich Redmond Show. But above all, my dear friend, Rich Redmond. What's up, Rich?
Manny, what's up, buddy? Oh, that was a wonderful intro, man. And I forget how good of a host and speaker you are, man. I mean, this is great. I'm so happy for you.
Yeah, man, even a broken clock is right twice a day, bro. What do you want?
I got to remember that one.
Yeah, listen, bro, I keep up with you. You know, I visit your site. You know, you have so many goodies on there, not to mention, you know, not just for drummers, but for anyone who, as you would say, wants to invest in their career. You know, you've got your crash course for success. I love the book. You have your The Evident Drumming in the Modern World, which I happen to have. Really proud owner, 5-hour e-course, and that's chock full of techniques, advice, etc. But one of the ones that you added not too long ago, which I love, is The Fundamentals of Drumming for Kids, which is a guide to, you know, guide our youth and future rock stars, which is pretty awesome. But check this out. I got a little surprise for you, Rich. I actually have an awesome audio clip from one of your crash course success seminars, and you highlight 5 major areas to enhance your musical career. And the reason why I highlighted this is because I think it's a great supplement to the whole topic of passion. So take a listen.
But listen, commitment, relationships, attitude, skill, hunger. Commitment, relationships, attitude, skill, hunger. 5 things that you can use to enjoy a more successful music career or a more successful life. So would you say I play with commitment? Right? Would you say I play with conviction? Would you say I play with passion? Yes, the answer is yes, right? Because how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, 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 right? I started playing the drums in 1976. Dinosaurs roamed the earth. I had to dodge a T-Rex to get to my lessons. But my teacher, you know, told me how to hold the drumsticks, and he taught me about the importance of posture, and he gave me a Joel Rothman book, and I started learning my rudiments, and I started working on cadences, and then I was playing along with Kiss records and Queen records, and I fell in love with this thing, and I knew that I wanted to play Madison Square Garden, and I wanted to play the Hollywood Bowl, and I wanted to play Red Rocks, and I wanted to do all those things when I was 21 years old. But guess what? I didn't do any of those things until I was 41 years old. And that's 20 years of people saying no and slamming doors in my face. And there was roadblocks and speed bumps. And if there's anything that you want to do in life, no matter what season of life you're in, you can frickin' do it. But do not stop.
And then you wonder why I asked you to be, on my first episode of Mojo for Musicians.
My God, buddy.
That sums up everything, man. I thought I was going to drop off at the end of the 5 tips, but it was such a great story afterwards, and I think it needs to be highlighted. You know, please, indulge me. You have anything to add to that?
The 5 tips? Well, that's why I love acronyms, because they're so easy to remember, and like, oh yeah, it's like, it's a little bit brandable, like, sure. Oh yeah, the crash guy, it's commit to your craft, put the time in, get your 10,000 hours together, commit mentally. Everything starts in the mind and the body, and all your actions will follow. Cultivate relationships. Like you and I hadn't talked in about a year, but we picked up the phone and it was like we had never missed a beat.
Right.
The importance of attitude, how attitude really is 99% of life, and how enthusiasm is contagious, and thinking about our skills, identifying those skills that we need to be successful, and then not resting on our laurels. We want to stay relevant. You don't make beautiful wine out of rotting grapes dying on the vine. You gotta fight for that relevance. And so learning new skill sets. So now in this crazy high-paced world that we're in, you have to run just to stand still. So we have to be learning those new skills. And then no matter what season of our life we're in, we have to stay hungry for success. And that hunger means that fire that burns in your belly. And so we have to keep that flame lit at all costs. I'm a 50-year-old man with salt and pepper hair behind the drums, but I try.
Hey, whoa! At least you have hair. At least you have hair, man.
Well, I mean, I just try to exude the passion and the enthusiasm of a 16-year-old. You know what I mean?
No,
yeah.
Absolutely, man. And that's why I wanted to let it run, because I think it's indispensable. Because one of my biggest flaws is patience. And that's one of the things that I've had to overcome throughout the years. And you certainly have displayed your passion as well as patience. Now, I usually have a structured format of questions that I'd like to ask. So I hope you don't mind. One of the first questions that I'd like to introduce is, how the hell did you decide that drumming was your passion? Like, this is what I want to do. I want to get behind the skins. I want blisters for the rest of my life. I want to lug all these tubs, as you would call them, in and out of gigs. Like, what was that defining moment that you said, yeah, man, this is for me?
Yeah, I think, a lot of times our calling, our purpose, it finds us. I was just meant to play the drums. Like, percussion is essentially anything you can beat, scrape, rattle, shake, so like, I tried to elevate that to high art over the years, studying classical percussion and all that stuff. But it was a calling. I knew I was going to do it. I'm not really good at playing the guitar or the piano. It's like I was supposed to communicate and express my passion for people and music through the drums. And I know that, like, when I started in '76, my teacher told my dad, hey, this kid's got, he's got some natural talent. You need to nurture this. But I was so young, man. I wanted to play with my Star Wars figures and watch Battlestar Galactica and ride my banana bike, So it took a couple more years till I moved to El Paso, Texas. I was 11 years old. And in the 5th grade, I rejoined the school band. And then before you know it, MTV comes along. We're sitting in front of MTV 24 hours a day watching these music videos. And there was that band called The Police. And I loved them because Sting was such a great songwriter and the guitar player had such unique sounds. And the drummer
was amazing,
Yeah, he was a military brat, so he grew up all over the world. So he had like all these different multicultural musical influences. But he started out as a punk band, but they grew and developed. And when that Synchronicity record came out in '83, I was like, I can do this.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm going to do it. I'm growing up in El Paso, Texas. Not a lot of opportunity here in the music business, but at least I can get my skill set together while I'm figuring out how the music business works.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And being taught, like, I think we were, I'm grateful enough to be born throughout that age where I saw real rock stars, the initiation of, Bon Scott, AC/DC, the Van Halens with David Lee Roth, the Kashmir and Zeppelin. So we saw iconic musicians. And at that time, everyone had to have chops. Like in the 80s, if you weren't a good drummer and can pull off a paradiddle, if you didn't have the notes to be like a David Coverdale, if you weren't like the Warren D. Martini, don't get on the stage. And for me, I think we kind of lost that. I think we lost a little bit of the dedication that it takes to really master your craft. You agree?
Mm. Well, music changes and grows.
Sure.
And I always tell people there's always a place for everybody in the music business, because as much as we need arenas packed on Saturday nights with the Bruno Marses of the world,
right.
We also, there's people that are expressing themselves through music at the corner pub on Friday and Saturday nights. And those true believers and those regulars go to their little cheers and they see their favorite, weekend warriors playing Honky Tonk Women and I Will Survive by Gloria Gaynor. And that is just as important. But yeah, I knew that the one of the ways to success would be to be as over prepared as humanly possible. Getting your skill set together so that you can speak the language of music. And I didn't know where the opportunities were going to present themselves. As much as I love those Whitesnake records in the '80s, I was like, I didn't really have the haircut. I wasn't connected in Los Angeles, so I said, maybe I should learn how to read music really well and play all these other percussion instruments and learn how to swing a jazz band and a big band and start checking out fusion music and smooth jazz came along. I played in cumbia bands where, I didn't speak Spanish, but we communicated through rhythm and hand signals, and so I embraced all those things and all those experiences, and that open-mindedness hopefully made me the drummer that I am today,
Yeah, it shows, man, because you are one of the most diverse drummers or shall I say percussionists that I've seen, man. I truly enjoy your video and your tutorials because you touch upon so many different genres. And me being a Latin American, I grew up on a steady dose of the Beatles and salsa and, folk music. My guilty pleasure are the 70s pop, the Ambrosias, the Breads, and that's the stuff that I grew up on, and I'm proud to say that. But the next question, it's a cool segue because usually this is a 2-part question for you. I think you're the ideal candidate to ask this. Like, what's the best piece of advice that was given to you in this industry? And what would you tell, this is the second part, by the way, what would you tell your 20-year-old Rich Redmond to do differently early on in his career?
Yeah, the 20-year-old Rich, man. Well, there's so many things that are just like I'm overeducated, so I got my master's degree, which that was great because when I was in college, you can't take away a college degree. You figure out how to jump through these flaming hoops and play the game of academia and write the write the papers with the footnotes and show up every day. You know, that's always great to have. And perhaps that's fed into like me teaching at colleges and stuff. You know, they're like, wow, he's got all this street experience, but he actually has like pieces of paper from respected academic institutions. But that changes. I don't know how important that is. You know, nowadays you can get tutorials on just about anything on YouTube. And so I've seen a lot of kids who have literally like, on the same timeline I was, but like they get to some of their musical dreams 5 years faster than I did because I didn't start writing a tour bus until I was 27 years old. But at the same time, that keeps things like super fresh because some people by the time they hit 40, they just are like, they're just burnt out on their craft because they've been at it since they were 18. Like me, not really starting to ride a tour bus until I was 27. It allows me to continue to enjoy it into my fifth decade on the planet. But that was one part of the question. And what was the other question?
Oh, the first part is, what's the best piece of advice that was given to you that, that always reverberates? Because, it's that one thing, like I remember stuff from fifth grade. They're like, you know what? Yeah. And, destiny is what you make it. That's the only way to guarantee what you want to be is you have to decide on it. It's something to that effect, because I think the most that we can do, especially for me, I want to uphold the idea of offering somebody value. If there's one thing that they could take away from all these episodes, aside from the 15 minutes of storytelling, is that one thing like, yeah, man, Rich nailed it with that,
Definitely putting in the time, like when I was coming up, I just practiced incessantly and nothing bad is going to come from applied effort on your, in your craft, and it was like, I remember being in college and it would be a Saturday night and everybody would be at a kegger and I would literally be locked in the percussion studio practicing Japanese marimba and classical timpani. And it's like, I really had that eye on the prize, that eye of the tiger, and I put the time in. So you're never, ever going to, time spent practicing your craft is never time wasted.
No, I mean, I agree 100%, and it's like, I look at those quotes. There was one by Muhammad Ali, which is so true. It says, I hated training, couldn't stand it. But I told myself, I'd rather suffer now and then have life a little bit easier as I get older. And he basically hit the nail on the head with that one,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's never time wasted.
No, it really isn't, man. I've learned that later on in my years, especially with even doing this, you start delving into things. Now, I'm a singer. I could hold a note from time to time, even on occasion, I've had to master vocalizing everything. And then, because I too was a drummer, which is one of the reasons why I'm so compelled and so drawn to you, because you're living my rock star life that I wanted when I was a kid. I was tall, lanky, and I felt that, I was always in control because it was my groove that set the tone, so I had that control, but it was one of those things where I slowly drifted into the frontman status, and of course life gets in the way, changes happen, you make these transitions and so on and so forth. But the last question, and full pun intended, man, seriously, full pun intended. What's your mojo? Like, give me a day in the life experience of Rich Redmond's routine, because we both know success, as we discussed here and you alluded to, is a mindset, and it's a culmination of daily rituals. So what's yours?
Yeah. Well, it changes so much because I do so many different things. So like touring with Jason Aldean, like that has a certain schedule where we get on the bus on a Wednesday night at midnight, and I wake up and like, Salina, Kansas the next day. And then I'll get up and if I can, I'll go do a speech or lessons or a drum clinic at a mom and pop music store or a big box store or a college, or I'll speak to the whole student body in the cafetorium of a school, so that's always fun. And then some days I'm teaching online lessons, and sometimes it's just a business development day where I'm on the phone every day. And some days I've got to shed for something or do a recording session where I'm behind a set of drums all day and I'm bringing someone's songs and passions to life. And like all these things it's a great responsibility that's given to me because, I'm either having to bring a live show to life or bring someone's song to life, or I'm responsible for educating a person who's paying top dollar to go to an institution. So, but every day I try to I do a gratitude when I take my shower. I go through a gratitude list of all the things that I'm grateful for, which kind of grounds the day and sets things in the right direction. I make my bed, which I learned from a military man. They said, make your bed, and then you've accomplished your first thing in the day, and it's so much easier to build other positive accomplishments on top of that. I try to eat right, and I take my vitamins, and I drink lots of water. And then, you know, in COVID, I got this thing called the Nike running app. And just out of curiosity, I would go out every day and just make a commitment to myself to run or walk. And sometimes it would be 9 miles of walking around Los Angeles, or it'd be like 5 minutes of like at a nice, 5 miles at a nice clip. And I looked at my running app the other day. Since March 13th of last year, I've run like over 600 miles. And it was great because it just, you know, you sweat out the toxins, you burn calories, you regulate your weight, you know, like it's all good stuff because I'm burning 1,000 calories a night playing with Jason Aldean. So if I don't have that in my life, I have to figure out another way to burn 1,000 calories.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, man, you get those hot summer nights, like you mentioned, you know, a sold out crowd in like an arena out in Ohio, and it's like 120 degrees in the shade. Trust me, man, you burn a lot of calories, man. So endurance plays a huge part in what you're doing right now. You're preparing, you know, because let's face it, this is all going to be over soon enough. We've already had to, you know, make some serious adjustments. And so why not really increase your, you know, your heart rate, get your endurance rate up? So yeah, that's definitely smart. You know, you reminded me of this amazing book, The Miracle Morning, yes, by Hal Elrod. Let me tell you, man, one of the best books that you could buy. I encourage reading it. It has definitely changed my morning routine and taken it to the next level. So check that book out, man. It basically highlights everything that you're talking about. So, man, I appreciate you sharing that with us because, you know, let's face it, especially with COVID, and, you know, I was unfortunately affected directly with the passing of my father. You know, a lot of things come into perspective, man. You realize how short time is, you know, so don't wait on fulfill your dreams. And I think that you'd be in full agreement with me on that one, man, because it was a tough hit for me, but I also learned to be grateful for the amazing times that my father and I shared, for all the stuff that he instilled in me, you know, all the morals, you know, that passion in me to create shows like this, to spread love and more peace in this world. So I can't be more grateful for that stuff, man. So listen, Rich, I know you're a busy man. I'm going to let you go. I really want to thank you for you know, giving us your time, for me and my listeners, and for sharing everything that I know will be indispensable for any musician listening in on it.
Well, brother, I do appreciate it, and I'm so sorry about your loss, and I'm thinking about you, man, and I think this is a wonderful outlet for you, and I think that all your friends and fans are going to love this.
Thanks so much, brother. And to all my Manny Pack and fellow musicians of the world, as always, much love and peace, and always live to inspire. I'll see you on the next one.
This has been a Mojo for Musicians podcast. If you're a musician, producer, engineer, or any other industry professional wanting to share your mojo and stories of success with our listeners, or just want to share some feedback on today's episode, we'd love to hear from you. So just send us an email at info@mannycabo.com. Thanks for listening.